The parking garage was quiet at 7:45 in the morning. Elena sat in her car with the engine off, her hands resting on the steering wheel. The radio played softly in the background, though she had stopped hearing the music several minutes earlier. By her own private accounting, she had 90 seconds left before she needed to walk into the building. She used those 90 seconds the same way she had used them for years. She assembled the version of herself the building required. The expression came first. A small, carefully calibrated smile. Not warm enough to seem unprofessional, not neutral enough to appear distant. The posture came next. A subtle adjustment of the shoulders that communicated confidence without arrogance, readiness without performance. The voice came last. She wouldn't need it immediately, but the voice had to be ready, so she rehearsed the cadence she would use in her first conversation of the day. The cadence belonged to the persona. The persona had been refined over years. It was precise enough to deploy in under 2 minutes. At this stage, Elena no longer thought of the process as performance. She called it preparation. The distinction mattered. Preparation allowed her to believe that the version of herself walking into the office was still her. Performance suggested something different. Performance implied there was another version hidden underneath, a version she was increasingly reluctant to examine. She opened the car door. She walked toward the elevator. She entered the building. By the time she reached her desk, the persona was fully in place. To every colleague she encountered, it was indistinguishable from the only Elena most of them had ever known. The construction of a professional persona is not new. People have always adjusted themselves for work. The version of ourselves we bring into the office has never been exactly the same as the version we bring to dinner with friends, or the breakfast table with our families. Professional life has always required calibration. Different language, different emotional control, different expectations. Most adults accept that reality without ever naming it. But something has changed. The calibration required by the modern workplace is no longer a slight adjustment. For many professionals, it has become a second identity, a sustained presentation of attributes the workplace rewards, maintained continuously, measured constantly, recalibrated endlessly. The modern persona doesn't exist only in conference rooms. It exists on Slack, on Teams, on Zoom, on LinkedIn, in archived emails, in reaction emojis, in attendance patterns, in response times, in every digital breadcrumb that modern organizations now treat as evidence of engagement. The workplace no longer evaluates what you do. Increasingly, it evaluates the continuous performance of who you appear to be. And the list of required attributes keeps growing. Professionals are still expected to be competent, still expected to be reliable, still expected to be pleasant. But now they must also be visibly engaged, innovative, AI literate, growth-oriented, executive presence ready, mission-aligned, brand consistent, feedback receptive, change resilient, and perhaps most ironically of all, authentic. Authenticity has become a mandatory performance, which may be the cruelest contradiction of the modern workplace. Because the moment authenticity becomes a requirement, it ceases to be authentic. The contradictions don't stop there. Be confident, but humble. Be assertive, but not aggressive. Be ambitious, but content. Be visible, but not self-promotional. Be vulnerable, but not in a way that exposes actual vulnerability. Be enthusiastic about artificial intelligence, but cautious about artificial intelligence. Be original, but aligned. Be transparent, but discreet. Individually, each of these expectations can be managed. Collectively, sustained over years and evaluated continuously by people who define them differently, they become impossible. No one can satisfy all of them. The only practical response is to appear as though you do. That appearance is the persona. The persona consumes energy, and energy is finite. Every unit devoted to maintaining the persona is a unit unavailable for the work itself. There is perhaps no better example than the modern video meeting. The camera is on. Your face is visible to everyone else. But more importantly, your face is visible to you. In the small thumbnail sitting permanently in the corner of the screen, the thumbnail is the new mirror, and the mirror never turns off. You are expected to listen, participate, analyze, take notes, watch the chat, follow the slides, track action items, read the room, and simultaneously monitor your own facial expression. You must appear engaged, interested, prepared, aligned, even when you are confused, frustrated, exhausted, or simply thinking. The face becomes another task, and that task consumes cognitive bandwidth. Over time, the process becomes automatic. The expression appears without conscious effort, but the cost doesn't disappear. It simply moves below awareness. The professional no longer notices the performance, only the exhaustion it leaves behind. The fatigue created by long-term persona maintenance is not traditional burnout. The workload may be high, but the workload is not the real source of exhaustion. The exhaustion comes from the distance between the performed self and the actual self. The gap is the labor, and the labor never stops. Sometimes it becomes visible on weekends. A professional arrives at a Saturday afternoon and realizes they no longer know what they genuinely want to do. All week, they performed enthusiasm, family, presence, engaged. Now the audience has changed. The audience is family, friends, children, people who would prefer the real person. The problem is that the real person has not been consulted in days, sometimes weeks, sometimes years. The transition back takes effort, and by Sunday evening, the cycle begins again. The anticipation of Monday arrives. The meetings, the messages, the carefully calibrated tone. The persona begins assembling itself before the work week has even started. We call this the Sunday scaries, a playful name for something far more serious. The recurring recognition that your professional life increasingly requires you to be someone other than yourself. The companies see the symptoms. Employer surveys tell them something is wrong, so they respond. Meditation apps, mental health programs, wellness initiatives, flexible work policies, occasionally even sabbaticals. None of these are bad ideas, but most address the symptoms, not the cause. The cause is that the persona itself has expanded beyond sustainable limits. The workplace demands it, then offers resources to help employees recover from it. The organization spends money treating the consequences while preserving the conditions that created them. The math doesn't work. What would help? Fewer video calls, less continuous monitoring, fewer contradictory expectations, greater tolerance for professionals appearing as actual human beings. Those changes are available, but they require organizations to admit that some of their own practices are creating the problem. That admission is expensive. Meditation apps are cheap. The most significant consequence emerges over decades. The persona begins to replace the person it was originally designed to protect. After 15 or 20 years of continuous calibration, many professionals discover something unsettling. They no longer know who they are when the performance stops. The workplace version has become the most practiced version. The authentic version has weakened from neglect. The persona was supposed to be a tool. Instead, it became the architecture. The costume became permanent. And eventually, the costume began wearing the person. Elena was 43 years old. She had spent 11 years at her current company, 9 years at companies before that. Most of her adult life had been spent refining versions of the persona. By every traditional measure, it had worked. Promotions, recognition, financial success, career advancement. But sitting alone in the quiet parking garage, she occasionally confronted a thought she rarely allowed herself to examine. The persona had become so effective, she wasn't entirely sure where it ended and she began. She told herself she would figure it out someday, perhaps after retirement, perhaps when life slowed down, perhaps during some future season that would finally provide enough time to reconnect with the person underneath. She hoped there would be enough time. She wasn't certain. The uncertainty was uncomfortable, so she did what professionals learn to do. She moved on. She stepped into the elevator. The doors closed, and by the time she reached her floor, the persona was complete. The persona is a costume. The costume is now wearing the person.